The film begins with Parker on a secret mission with special forces. Parker and her team are posing as international relief soldiers in order to arrest a weapons trafficking gang. It becomes apparent that the criminals have discovered the true identity of Parker and her team, and as a result, they are expelled and targeted for elimination. Two of Parker's colleagues are observing the situation from a distance, with one of them using a sniper rifle to shoot at a criminal's vehicle, causing it to overturn. The second vehicle pursues Parker and her colleague, firing a projectile at their vehicle, causing it to flip over. Parker's colleague dies, but she survives, confronts the criminals, and manages to eliminate them. Her team joins her, and they arrest the remaining criminals. However, one of Parker's colleagues grabs a gun to kill the captured criminals, which angers Parker. A fierce argument ensues between them, but Spider, another colleague of Parker, intervenes, diffusing the situation. Spider is a specialist in hacking electronic systems and managed to access their colleague's computer, discovering that a complaint had been filed against him and a transfer request made. Parker receives a call from the police chief, named Jess, and when Spider asks her about Jess, she reveals that he was her college friend. When Parker learns from Jess that her father has died because the mine's roof collapsed on him, she is deeply affected and rushes back to her village. Upon arrival, she visits Jess to find out what happened. Jess gives Parker a letter they found on her father's desk. Parker discovers that Jess kept the letter as evidence because he suspects her father may have committed suicide, as the letter contains a farewell message to his daughter. Parker explains that she and her father had a tradition of sending each other letters like this, and this is not sufficient evidence of suicide. Jess sympathizes with Parker and offers to drive her home, which she accepts. During the drive, Parker tells Jess that she wants to sell her father's bar, which surprises Jess, especially since her father built it specifically for her. Parker admits that she knows this but cannot live in the village without her father. Upon reaching the house, Jess bids Parker farewell and advises her to contact him if she needs anything. Before entering the house, Parker goes to the bar and notices an unknown person getting out of a car and entering the bar. She hides from him and, when the person approaches, she attacks him and subdues him. Parker learns from the person that her father was very proud of her and that he found her father in the mine after the rocks fell on him. Parker is then taken to the mine to see the location where her father died. Mike tells Parker that her father had been spending most of his time at the mine recently. Parker recalls a memory with her father at the mine where he gave her a dagger he inherited from his father. She is brought back to the present by Mike's voice, who tells her they have arrived at the place where her father was found. Mike is puzzled because he doesn't understand the cause of the rock collapse. Parker approaches the collapse site, grabs a rock, and notices specific marks on it. She tells Mike that the mine collapsed due to a hand grenade explosion. Parker leaves the mine, retrieves a hand grenade, and thinks of a specific location. After the explosion, she picks up a rock and confirms to Mike that the two rocks have the same explosion marks, meaning her assumption was correct, and the mine collapsed due to a hand grenade. Since her father was a former Special Forces officer, it is impossible that he made a mistake and the grenade exploded accidentally. Parker starts to suspect her father was murdered. They return to the bar where Mike informs Parker that a criminal gang had carried out armed robberies in the village and had previously attacked her bar. Her father had resisted them, and this gang might be involved in her father's death. Parker gets up to get a drink, and at that moment, Jess's brother, Fizz, arrives at the bar and bothers Parker in an irritating way. It is revealed that Parker has disliked Fizz for a long time because he always bothered her and tried to get close to her. When Fizz attempts to touch her, Parker grabs his finger and breaks it, warning him that if he touches her again, she will kill him. Parker and Mike then leave the bar and notice a suspicious car parked outside. Parker approaches it and sees that it contains weapons. She leaves the car with Mike and monitors it. Shortly after, a group of people emerges from the bar, gets into the car, and drives off. Parker asks Mike to follow them, confident that the car is stolen and contains the weapons she saw. They follow the car to the location where it stopped. Parker asks Mike to wait for her while she enters the location. Inside, she finds that the gang is threatening a shop owner. Parker attacks them in a fierce battle, defeating them all. She discovers Frank, her father's friend, holding a watch that was stolen from his shop. Parker returns the watch to Frank, who thanks her and expresses his sorrow for her father's death. The next day, Parker is repairing her father's car and intends to test it, but a large explosion occurs behind the mountain. She rushes to find out the cause of the explosion and sees Fizz testing rocket launchers. These weapons are meant for the armed forces, not civilians. That night, Parker returns home and searches through her father's belongings. She finds a piece of paper with an email address, so she contacts Spider and asks him to investigate the email. Parker learns from Spider that the email contains surveillance camera footage from the mine. She asked Spider to review the camera recordings from the day her father died. Spider reveals that a car was parked in front of the mine, and Parker recognizes it as Fizz's car. Spider then discovers that Fizz is involved in arms dealing. Parker becomes convinced that Fizz is connected to her father's death. The next day, Parker decides to monitor Fizz's movements and sees him going to an army weapons storage facility. Spider calls her and informs her that Fizz is planning a weapon deal at his house. Parker quickly heads to Fizz's home and starts connecting the dots, realizing that Fizz's father, Swan, is a senator. This means Fizz is exploiting his father's immunity to trade weapons. Parker observes Fizz meeting with an arms dealer, testing various weapons. Fizz shows them off to the dealer. Parker then goes to dinner with Jess and meets Swan, Jess's father, who is visibly unhappy about Parker's presence but invites her to dinner. At dinner, Parker and Jess reminisce about their college days. While Jess sleeps, Parker takes the key to Jess's office and sneaks into the police station, searching through files until she finds one on her father. She takes and photographs everything in the file. The next day, Parker attends her father's funeral, deeply distressed. She spends the rest of the day mourning his loss. At night, she goes to Swan's house where she dines with him and Jess. While there, Parker receives a message from Spider indicating that Fizz is at the mine. Parker apologizes to Swan and Jess, saying she has an important matter to attend to. She rushes to the mine and sees two of Fizz's men loading rocks onto a vehicle. As they enter the mine, Parker punctures the vehicle's tire to disable it. She sneaks into the mine unnoticed and finds Fizz sitting in her father's chair, acting as if he owns the place. Parker attacks him, demanding he confess to killing her father. One of Fizz's men throws a rock at Parker, but it hits Fizz instead. Parker then holds a dagger to Fizz's neck and orders his assistant to leave the mine. The assistant complies and runs out, but when Parker exits the mine, she finds that Fizz has vanished without a trace. Fizz tries to escape, but Parker tackles him and holds the dagger to his neck, demanding he confess to the murder. Fizz claims he did not kill her father. Suddenly, Parker sees Fizz's men setting fire to the bar. She rushes over to try to stop them but finds the fire has already engulfed the entire place. Parker quickly grabs her essential belongings and fights off one of Fizz's men who attacks her, throwing him into the fire. Parker manages to escape from the burning bar just before it is completely destroyed. Meanwhile, Fizz and his men attempt to escape in their vehicle, but they cannot because the tire Parker damaged has left them stranded. Parker attacks them, fights with Fizz's associate, and loses consciousness. When she regains her senses, she continues to assault Fizz, demanding he admits to killing her father. Jess arrives and arrests Parker. The next day, Jess confronts Fizz in front of his father, expressing his disappointment and revealing that Fizz's actions are the worst thing that has ever happened to them. It is revealed that Jess knew Fizz was involved in arms dealing but was unable to take action against him due to his father's influence. Fizz was using the profits from the arms trade to fund his father's election campaign. It turns out that Fizz was at the mine to retrieve ammunition hidden under the rocks, intending to sell it to his arms dealer. Jess's father, Swan, had invited Parker to dinner to prevent her from seeing Fizz collect the ammunition. Swan scolds Fizz and Jess, telling them that Parker has discovered dangerous information about them. Swan then instructs Jess to find a way to get Parker out of the village. That night, Jess, who is conflicted and unsure of what to do, visits Parker in her cell and offers her money to leave the village. Parker refuses, accusing Jess and his father of being involved in arms dealing. She threatens to expose them with the surveillance footage. Jess claims the cameras are not operational, but Parker reveals that her father had installed new cameras in secret. Jess becomes angry and leaves. The next day, Parker's lawyer visits and discusses the case with Jess, asking about his family. Jess denies knowing anything, as he is preoccupied with his duties. The lawyer realizes he cannot obtain any information from Jess and leaves. The lawyer then goes to the mine to search for evidence and is shocked to find it. Meanwhile, Swan and Fizz are restraining Parker at the police station. Parker is intrigued and wants to know the location of the surveillance recordings. Jess arrives and is visibly unhappy with the situation but is unable to speak out. Swan approaches Parker and offers her a deal. If she hands over the recordings, he will tell her what happened to her father. Parker responds that the recordings are with a friend. Jess then takes his father aside to discuss the matter privately, advising him not to reveal anything to Parker, as it could be a significant threat to them. During this time, Parker takes advantage of their distraction, pulls a hairpin from her hair, and tries to free herself. When Swan returns, he asks Parker for Spider's phone number to contact him. Parker provides the number, and when Spider answers, Parker informs him that she is with Swan's family and that they are beating her up. Swan becomes enraged and is about to shoot Parker, but Jess stops him. Meanwhile, Parker manages to free herself, attacks Swan and Fizz, and threatens Jess, demanding he lock himself and his brother in a cell, which Jess complies with. Parker locks them up and tries to leave with Swan but encounters a police officer who raises his weapon. Swan seizes the opportunity to escape, so Parker tackles the officer and then drives away in a car. Exhausted and injured, Parker loses consciousness while driving and crashes. A farmer sees her and rushes over. At the same time, Spider calls Parker to check on her, but Jess has the phone and sends a message pretending to be Parker, assuring Spider she is fine and telling him not to come. Fizz and one of his men arrive at Mike's house, threatening him to reveal Parker's whereabouts. Mike claims not to know where she is, but they find blood near the basement door. When they investigate the basement, they find nothing. Fizz warns Mike to inform him if he learns anything about Parker. After Fizz and his men leave, Mike opens a secret compartment in the basement and finds Parker lying on a bed, being treated by Mike's mother. When Parker wakes up, she learns that Fizz is searching for her and explains that Fizz and his family are responsible for her father's death and that they are smuggling weapons through her father's mine. Meanwhile, Jess and Fizz bury the lawyer's body after Jess killed him in the mine. Jess tells Fizz to investigate the man who buys the weapons from him, describing him as a dangerous criminal and advising Fizz to stop dealing with him. However, Fizz refuses as he has already received a deposit for the deal and is expected to deliver the weapons. The next day, Parker, recovering, goes with Mike to collect a box of weapons and explosives. That night, Swan meets with the criminal who will buy the weapons from Fizz, named Ghost. Ghost is angry about the delay in the weapon delivery and demands his money back. Swan explains that they are facing issues transporting the weapons and requests a 2-day extension, but Ghost becomes furious, attacks Swan, and demands the money, which Swan spent on his election campaign. Ghost learns from Swan that Fizz is at the mine and heads there with his men. Parker goes to Swan's house and finds him tied to a chair in his office. She then leaves with Mike, who has been waiting outside, and tells him what she has learned from Swan, revealing that her father discovered their arms smuggling operation and was killed by Jess. Parker is determined to avenge her father. They arrive at the mine, where Parker thanks Mike for his help and asks him to promise not to follow her into the mine. She takes the weapons and enters the mine, where she sees the men transferring the weapons. She is shocked when Spider arrives and asks about her. Spider senses something is wrong and tries to leave, but Ghost's men capture him and plan to take him into the mine. Parker intervenes, and while Spider fights Ghost's men, Parker sneaks into the mine and finds Ghost threatening Fizz, who is trying to convince Ghost he did not blow up the weapon vehicle. Jess is also present, but Ghost's men surround him, making it impossible for him to help his brother. Ghost decides to take everyone outside the mine to search for the person who blew up the vehicle. Once they leave, Parker quietly makes her way to where Spider is, seeing Ghost's men beating him. Parker quickly intervenes, and with Spider's help, they defeat Ghost's men. As they attempt to leave, Ghost's men open fire, and Spider decides to blow up the mine with the weapons inside. After the explosion, Ghost enters the mine and confronts Parker. Parker swiftly kills Ghost. Fizz arrives and attacks Parker, knocking her to the ground and preparing to kill her, but Parker stabs him with the dagger and kills him. At the end, Parker, Mike, and Mike's mother, along with her father's friends, search for Spider. They find him injured under the rubble but still alive. Mike's mother asked Parker to complete her mission and stay by Spider's side. Parker takes Mike and her father's friends and they continue through the mine until they find an entrance leading to an army weapons storage. Parker realizes Fizz was stealing weapons from the military and selling them. To escape detection, Parker pretends to be injured when a soldier arrives and claims she was shot in the tunnel. As the soldier leaves to call a doctor, Parker moves quickly and finds Jess. She attacks him, confronting him with the fact that she cannot believe he could kill her father. Jess admits that her father had discovered their operations and refused a bribe to remain silent, leading to his death. Jess, regretting his actions, suddenly pushes Parker away and grabs a grenade. He lets go of the grenade, pulling it toward himself, and the story concludes with Parker returning to her normal life. If you finished the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more movie summaries. Thanks for listening, my loves. See you in another video.